Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today I'm going to share a story with you which is very close to my heart, and whenever I listen to this story I find that there's something inside which it evokes. And the story talks about the passion of meeting with a Gursikh and not necessarily listening to a lecture, not necessarily listening to a YouTube video, and not necessarily going through any of those usual motions, but just the feel of a Gursikh, just the touch of a Gursikh, just being in the presence of someone who is completely focused upon God's love, how that can change your life. So you may have heard of a great writer in the Panth. His name was Professor Puran Singh. As a youngster, Professor Puran Singh was from an Amritari family. He took Amrit, but he was very intelligent. In fact, he was so intelligent that he gained a scholarship to Japan. So as a youngster, as a young man, he traveled in his pagdi, in his kakar. He gets to Japan, and this young enthusiastic man who's so intelligent, who can speak German, who can speak English, who reads avidly, who was known to read Walt Whitman and other authors at the time. He gets there and he starts traveling around from place to place, and he goes to the Buddhist monasteries, and he's so young and impressionable and intelligent that one day he decides that this is the path for me. So he cuts his case and he takes on the robes of a bhikshu, of a Buddhist monk. A few years later, this same young man comes across a Hindu saint by the name of Swami Ram. Swami Ram was a great speaker, and when young Puran Singh heard him, then he cast off the robes of a bhikshu and he put on the robes of a sannyasi, so the ochre coloured, salmon pink coloured robes of a sannyasi. And he started following Swami Ram and he became Swami Puran. But he was so intelligent that he was still well respected in all of the educated circles in Punjab. And in those times, the Singh Sabha movement was at its height. There were great people like Bhai Khan Singh Nabha, Dr. Bhai Veer Singh, Gyani Dit Singh, these people who changed the whole psyche of the Sikh Panth at that time. And what they would do is they would have an educational conference every year. And to that educational conference, they'd call all of the Sikh scholars. And in that conference, it wasn't like a conference today where scholars would meet up, talk about their topics and go. The rule that Bhai Veer Singh had was anyone who comes to this conference must sit in the divan, must listen to kirtan, must listen to the Guru's hukum, then the conference begins. That was the Sikh educational conference. So Swami Puran was invited, and he was going to talk about organic farming. And when he came in, he's dressed in his pink robes, and his head completely is shaved bald. He's got a little ramal covering his head. He walks in and he does Matha Tekna to Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and he sits in the Sangat. And on the stage was a Gursikh by the name of Bhai Hira Singh. Bhai Hira Singh would sing kirtan with such love that people of other religions would say to their children, don't go into the streets, because today Hira Singh is singing kirtan, and anyone who listens to Hira Singh's kirtan automatically falls in love with Guru Granth Sahib and gets ready to give their head to the Guru and prepares to take Amrit. So when Bhai Hira Singh would sing kirtan, when he sang kirtan in Harmandir Sahib, the whole of the parkarma, this was before the speakers, this was before the audio system, the whole of the parkarma would be filled to the brim. He was Hira by name, which means diamond, and he was Hira by his kirtan as well. And when he started doing kirtan, Swami Puran was sitting in the Sangat, and Swami Puran had his essay written in front of him. As he was looking down at his essay, tears started running down Swami Puran's eyes listening to Hira Singh sing. And that same paper, which was covered in black ink was now covered in Swami Puran's tears. Bhai Hira Singh finishes Kirtan, Guru Granth Sahib Ji gives hukam. And by this time, it's the beginning of the conference. So when the conference is about to begin, somebody nudges Swami Puran, it's your time to speak. Swami Puran is so choked up with emotion at this point that he can't speak. Someone brings him to the stage, he comes to the lectern where he's meant to speak. And when he goes up in front of the Sangat, he puts both his hands together and still crying, still with tears running down his cheeks, he says, Sadh Sangat Ji, mere to bahut vaddi galti ho gayi. Sadh Sangat Ji, I have committed such an unforgivable mistake. Please forgive me. And for that whole half an hour, the only words which Swami Puran said, he didn't talk about farming, he didn't talk about any of the topics he was meant to. He just said to the Sangat, forgive me, I've left Guru Nanak's house. Now, the man who was running the stage was a Gursikh in himself, and he knew that this was a point where Swami Puran could now start walking on the path of spirituality. He knew that this was a breaking moment, that this was a revolution, that this was a time in his life where Swami Puran would change forever. And he knew that there was one man who could do this. He knew there was a Gursikh who was so full of God's name, who was so overflowing with Sikhi, who had Guru Granth Sahib Ji's words in each one of his veins. And that man was called Dr. Bhai Veer Singh. And the stage secretary took Bhai Veer Singh by the arm and he introduced Bhai Veer Singh to Swami Puran. The way he did it was, he put Swami Puran's hand into Bhai Veer Singh's hand. Bhai Veer Singh clasped hold of Swami Puran's hand and took him into his arms. And at that moment, Swami Puran is still filling up with emotion. Bhai Veer Singh takes his hand, puts it over the bald head of Swami Puran, and he says, "Inne komal kes tusi lohe di kanchi nal kat deo." He said, "Such beautiful your kes are, they are so beautifully komal." Komal, translating that, it's very hard to put it into English. But from the sound of the word, you can see it means they are so beautiful. They are so, each one of your kes has so much beauty. And he says, you cut these beautiful kes with metal scissors. As soon as Swami Puran heard this, he said to Bhai Veer Singh, he said, "Bhai Sahib, please tie the star upon my head today." Swami Puran at that moment sits down, Bhai Veer Singh ties a small dastar upon his head, and they speak. Some people say 4 hours, some people say 5 hours, some people say 6 hours. However long it was, they spoke. And they had this amazing conversation. And every single thing that Bhai Veer Singh was speaking seemed to hit Swami Puran. At the end of that, Swami Puran says, "Bhai Sahib, please bless me with Amrit." Bhai Veer Singh says, "No, not yet. First you go towards Buddhism, then you go towards Swami Ram Tirath. Now you come towards Amrit. But I want you to take Amrit at that moment when Amrit becomes your life." Swami Puran was quite disheartened at first. And then Bhai Veer Singh said to Swami Puran, "Puran Ji, come with me, live with me for a few months, and then we will see what happens." So Swami Puran goes to Bhai Veer Singh's house and he lives there and he starts doing Nitnem, and Bhai Veer Singh sits with him and they do Simran and they do Sahaj Path, because there was Guru Granth Sahib Ji at Bhai Veer Singh's house. Even today that room still exists where Bhai Veer Singh used to read from Guru Granth Sahib Ji. It's in Amritsar Sahib, it's quite close to Ranjit Avenue. And after these few months, Swami Puran starts keeping the external rat and the internal rat. And he is ready, but he can't ask Bhai Veer Singh. He can't get the words together. So Bhai Veer Singh sends him home. And after a few months of being home, Swami Puran can't sleep at night, he can't eat, he can't drink. All night he's turning over, all night he's churning over in his bed. And one night he picks up a pen and he picks up a pad and he writes to Bhai Veer Singh. And he says, "Ke Babal." Babal is a word of endearment which is used for a father, especially by a daughter. So he says, Babal, beti soi soi chat jagdi. Your daughter sleeps but gets up after every minute. Apne Babal paso kuj mangdi. And she would like your daughter, spiritual daughter. This isn't talking about male bodies, feminine bodies. This isn't talking about external. This is talking about a spiritual daughter speaking to her spiritual father. Professor Puran Singh speaking to Dr. Paivir Singh. Babal beti soi soi chat jagdi. Every second after I sleep, I get up. Apne Babal paso kuj mangdi. But today I want to request something from my father. Mera dada jioda utavla. My soul is crying out. Mera kaaj rachaive babla. When will I get married? That means when will I be blessed with Amrit? Paivir Singh gets this letter. He says, right, Swami Puran is ready to become Puran Singh. Paivir Singh invites Swami Puran to his house. He himself is in the Panj Pyare and administers Amrit to Swami Puran. And that day, Swami Puran becomes Professor Puran Singh. A white dastar upon his head, round, small, glasses, black katra around his neck, a white kurta. The next year, the Sikh Educational Conference comes again. And this year, Swami Puran is not talking about agriculture. This year he writes about Jap Sahib because he started experiencing Nityanim. So he's written a whole paper about Jap Sahib. And he comes to the stage. When he comes to the stage, he's about to read his paper. And someone from the Sangat looks up and says, hey, isn't that Swami Puran? Isn't that the guy who came last year who was bald-headed and wearing this salmon pink robe? And they shout at Swami Puran, they say, oi, Swami, where has your pink dress gone? Where have your pink clothes gone? Where did this white turban come upon your head? How has this gatra, this kirpan strap come around your neck? Swami Puran at that moment, who had become Professor Puran Singh, didn't answer back in harsh words. Didn't get angry. He didn't frown. In fact, he smiled and he looked upon the stage at Paivir Singh and he started singing a poem on the spot. And that poem, just to tell you for your information, it's called a Rubai. Now, Rubais come back from a Sufi, a fakir. His name was Sultan Bahu, and he used to write these very nice quatrains, so four sentences, and they end with oo, hu. So he takes this quatrain of Sultan Bahu and he uses it to explain himself. He looks at the person in the Sangat and he says, this is what he says, I'll sing it in the tune and then I'll translate afterwards. He says, Vaheguru Chambe di booty Mere man vich gurmukh lai ho Andar booty mushk machaya Jad phullan vich ai ho Abe hayat da paani milya Nehar arsh to ai ho Jug jug jeeve mera gurmukh babal Jinni eh booty lai ho What that means is Vaheguru Chambe di booty. The name of God, the name of Vaheguru is like a jasmine flower. Like planting a jasmine flower inside. Mere man vich gurmukh lai hu. Who planted this inside? Gurmukh. Who's Gurmukh? Dr. Paivir Singh. And planted God's name inside me. Andar booty mushk machaya. He says, why am I dressed in these white clothes externally? Because internally, in each one of my veins, in my lungs, in my breath, you can feel this fragrance. Andar booty mushk machaya jad fullan vich ai. When the flowers came and blossomed, this gatra around my neck is not a strap. The dasar upon my head is not cloth. It is the blossoming of my inner flower. And then he says, Abbe hayat da pani milya. So what watered this plant? It was the nectar of immortality. Where did it come from? Nehar arsh to aayi hu. It came from the skies, from the heavens. Then he says, Jug jug jeeve mera Gurmukh Babal. May my Gurmukh Babal, my father, spiritual father Bhai Veer Singh, live forever and forever. Jin e booty lai hu, who planted this inside me. So Sadh Sangat Ji, that beautiful moment of Professor Puran Singh is something which never ever ever leaves me. And that poem is something, as soon as I heard it, it's written upon my soul. And I think that it shows one great thing. Not just words, but just the feel, the experience of sitting next to Gurseks, that completely change your life. Sadh Sangat is an amazing thing, which is why every day we read Mere Madho Ji Sat Sangat Mile So Tarya. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj says liberation is found in the Sangat. And I think that's what we find from this story of Dr. Veer Singh and Professor Puran Singh. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
If you like this video, click the like button.
And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe.
At the age of 26, I started writing Guru Granth Sahib in my own handwriting. I have written Guru Granth Sahib in a continuous manner, which is known as Lari Varsaru.